Good morning, students. I hope you all are fine. So today we will start a new chapter, To Build a Fire, written by Jack London. Jack London was an American novelist, social activist, as well as journalist. He was born in 1876. Okay, this particular prose text, To Build a Fire, it basically portrays the conflict between man and nature. Okay, as well as it portrays a man's excessive pride who and his futile effort to overcome nature. Okay, and this is the main basically these two themes we will find in this particular prose text, and some other facts are also there. As long as we go with the text, we will learn about this. So this particular text, To Build a Fire, actually it has two versions. The first version was published in 1902 and the second one in 1908. So let us continue with the story. Before I start the text, I want each one of you to keep your pen, paper and book ready with you, because you need to go with me line to line. Okay, let's go through it. Day had broken cold and grey, exceedingly cold and grey. The day was cold and grey. It was a gloomy day. It was all over. It was bitterly cold. Okay, all over the area. Actually, basically the setting of this story is Yukon Trail. So here there the situation and atmosphere, it was icy cold, it was bitterly cold all around. When the man turned aside from the main Yukon Trail and climbed the high earth bank, where a dim and little traveled trail led eastward through the first sparse timberland, the man, the person was he was on that particular way to Yukon Trail, and the day was too much cold and grey, and the man, he was proceeding towards his destination. As I told you all, the day was bitterly cold. The man was aware of the fact, but he was not ready to accept that he cannot that a man cannot fight against nature. Okay, nature provided him enough hint about the day. Okay, that in such condition, and he was even, as we will go on with the text, we will learn that he was warned by many a people not to pass through this, but he will not listen to anyone, and he will go on with his it's probably because of his exceeding pride that he can even overcome nature at its even worst. Okay, it was a steep bank, and he paused for breath at the top, excusing the act to himself by looking at his watch. It was 9 o'clock. There was no sun, no hint of sun. So there was no even possibility of sun rising, though there was not a cloud in the sky. It was a clear day, and yet there seemed an intangible pall over the face of things. Intangible means untouchable. It's not touchable, and dark cloud or smoke, that is what pall means. A subtle gloom that made the day dark. It was delicate darkness all over that made the day more dark, okay, or darker. And that was due to the absence of sun. This fact did not worry the man. So the man was not bothered at all. Okay, it did not bring any sort of effect on him, right? Okay, he was used to the lack of sun. It had been days since he had seen the sun, and he knew that a few more days must pass before the cheerful orb due south would just peep above the skyline and dip immediately from view. So he was aware of the dark and grey day, but he was not actually ready to accept and rather he was much eager to proceed in his own journey, as he was quite sure about his success to reach to his destination. All right. The man flung a look back along the way he had come. So far he had come, he threw a glance over that. The Yukon lay a mile wide and hidden under 3 feet of ice. On top of this ice were as many feet of snow. It was all pure white, rolling in gentle undulations where the ice jams of the freeze up had formed. So this undulation means some wave-like motions. Okay, so it was all around, all snow. North and south, as far as his eye could see, it was unbroken white. It was all snow wherever he could see all around, save for a dark hill line that curved and twisted from round the spruce-covered island to the south. Now he was much ready to reach to his destination, that is Yukon Trail. Yukon Trail is generally it's a 33 feet long passage through the coast mountain from Bennett, okay, that is British Columbia. So here he was quite sure about the place that he is going to reach over there, and that was the only motive for him to reach there by anyhow. Here you will get a vivid description of that particular about his destination. Okay, this dark hill line was the trail, the main trail that led south 500 miles to the Chilkoot Pass, Daya and Saltwater, and that led north 70 miles to Dawson, and still on to the north 1,000 miles to Nulato, and finally to St. Michael's on Bering Sea, 1,000 miles and half 1,000 more. So this is the geographical description of his destination. But all this, the mysterious far-reaching hairline trail, the absence of sun from the sky, the tremendous cold, and the strangeness and weirdness of it all made no impression on the man. As I told, there were so many obstacles, there were so difficulties, but nothing bothered him. The man was excessively proud enough to think that he can overcome all such obstacles. It was not because he was long used to it. He was a newcomer in the land. Chikako means newcomer, and this was his first winter. It's not that he was an experienced person. He was a newcomer, but he had this much overconfidence. All right. The trouble with him was that he was without imagination. The man had rather limited imagination. He only could think, but he never was able to think its consequence. Okay. He was quick and alert in the things of life. He was quick and alert. He knew things, certain things, but only in the things and not in the significances. As I told, he knew his act. His motion of act was known to him, but he was not aware or he was not able to think about its consequence. All right. 50 degrees below zero meant 80 odd degrees of frost. Such fact impressed him as being cold and uncomfortable, and that was all. It did not lead him to meditate upon his frailty as a creature of temperature, and upon man's frailty in general. able only to live within certain narrow limits of heat and cold, and from there on it did not lead him to the conjectural field of immortality and man's place in the universe. So he was, as it is mentioned already, that the man was not aware even not ready to accept his own weakness, that there must be certain limitations for a human being to live on. Okay, so he was not even bothered about the temperature, and it was that it can his weakness, that human being has certain weakness, that they need to certain limitations of temperature to sustain his or her life. So the man was that this speculative field cannot be somehow ignored. The man was not that much ready to understand that fact, or rather admit that fact. 50 degrees below zero stood for a bite of frost that hurt. 50 degrees below zero was the temperature. Okay, and that was strong enough to make anyone ill. All right, and that was that must be guarded against by the use of mittens, ear claps, warm moccasins, and thick socks. Moccasins means flat shoes that is used generally to prevent cold. 50 degrees below zero was to him just precisely 50 degrees below zero. It was merely a number to him, and he was not ready to accept its the damage it can bring. That there should be anything more to it than it was a thought that never entered his head. As I already told, he could only think that, but he was not ready to accept that it might bring certain damages. As he turned to go on, he spat speculatively. So as he was going on, he spat. Okay, there was a sharp explosive crackle that startled him. As soon as he spat, he heard a little sound. Okay, a short sharp noise he could hear. Now why did it happen? As soon as he spat, that liquid from his mouth that turned into ice, and when it touched ground, it produced a sound. So you all can understand how means the situation, that how the day was. And as soon as he dropped the liquid from his mouth, it turned into ice. So we can definitely understand, but the man was not at all ready to accept this fact. Okay, he spat again and again in the air. Before it could fall to the snow, the spittle crackled. Again, the saliva from his mouth, it again crackled. It again turned into ice, and again the same sound produced. He knew that at 50 below, spittle crackled on the snow, but this spittle had crackled in the air. As yes, it was known to him that 50 degrees below minus means zero, so it will definitely turn any sort of liquid into ice, but it was turned into ice in the air, not even before touching the ground or snow rather. But this spit, okay, undoubtedly it was colder than 50 below. How much colder, he did not know. That means he could predict it was below, it was rather colder. But the temperature did not matter. Even that also didn't matter to him. He was bound for the old claim on the left fork of Henderson Creek, where the boys were already. Rather, he was concentrating on the group of boys who were awaiting the other part. They had come over across the divide from the Indian Creek country, while he had come the roundabout way to take a look at the possibilities of getting out logs in the spring from the island in the Yukon. So he thought, he was not bothered about the temperature or the way his speed became ice. He was not bothered. Rather, he was concentrating on that as soon as he reaches over there, he is going to get the warmth beside the fireside. Okay. He would be in to camp by 6 o'clock, a bit after dark. It was true, but the boys would be there, a fire would be going, and a hot supper would be ready. So he was rather concentrating on that. He would, when will he reach, and there a supper will be, means certain food or and fireside fire and all will be awaiting for him. As for lunch, he pressed his hand against the protruding bundle under his jacket. Okay, here, there, under his jacket, he has kept his lunch, so he touched that. It was also under his shirt, wrapped up in a handkerchief and lying against the naked skin. It was in order to prevent the food to get iced. He did that. It was the only way to keep the biscuits from freezing. He smiled agreeably to himself as he thought of those biscuits, each cut open and soaked in bacon grease, and each enclosing a generous slice of fried bacon. Bacon, it's pig meat. So he was rather concentrating the coating of his food and all. Okay. He plunged in among the big spruce trees. The trail was faint. A foot of snow had fallen since the last sled had passed over. Sled is a vehicle that carries a human being and their things. So a foot of snow had fallen since the last sled had passed over, and he was glad he was without a sled traveling light. Okay. In fact, he carried nothing but the lunch wrapped in the handkerchief. He was surprised, however, at the cold. It certainly was cold, he concluded, as he rubbed his numb nose and cheekbones with his mittened hand. He admitted it was too cold. He touched his cheekbones with his mitten, and he was a warm whiskered man, but the hair on his face did not protect the high cheekbones and the eager nose that thrust itself aggressively into the frosty air. His mustache couldn't bear, and mustache couldn't prevent him to feel the cold, chilling cold outside. Okay, so next to it we will be doing the next day. Since this text is too long, I may take one or two certain parts in the live class as well. So you need to follow the classes regularly, otherwise you will not be able to catch me. So we will be discussing about this in the next live class. This much for today. Thank you. Have a nice day.